The Whisper in the Woods. It was supposed to be a peaceful weekend getaway. Just me and my best friend, far away from the city, in a small cabin tucked deep in the woods. We wanted nothing more than a quiet, relaxing weekend in nature. The place we booked was simple. Just a small wooden cabin surrounded by tall trees and a tranquil, untouched forest. The first night was calm. We set up a small fire outside, roasted some food, and chatted about everything and nothing. But as the night wore on, something felt off. The air grew colder, sharper, and we could feel an uneasy stillness settling around us. It started with the wind, or we thought it was the wind. It was a faint whisper, almost like it was saying our names. "Hey," I looked at my friend. "Did you hear that?" He stiffened, his eyes wide. "Yeah, it sounded like it was calling my name." We both laughed it off, trying to ignore the unsettling feeling that had settled in. It was probably just the wind, right? We tried to get some sleep, but it was hard to shake the unease that lingered. The second night, things took a darker turn. We stayed inside after sunset, the cold creeping in once again. We joked, played cards, and tried not to mention the whispering from the night before. But then, at some point past midnight, I woke up to a faint creaking sound. I thought I was imagining it at first, but then I saw my friend sitting up in his bed, his face pale, staring at the door. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. I nodded. The creaking was louder now. It sounded like footsteps, slow and deliberate, circling the cabin. But when I tried to check, there was no one outside. Just darkness. The forest was still. We sat in silence, too scared to move. And then came the whisper again. "Hey." This time it was right outside the window. My heart pounded in my chest. I didn't want to look. I didn't want to see anything. But I had to. I grabbed the flashlight, trying to steady my shaking hands, and pulled back the curtain just enough to peek outside. Nothing. Just the empty forest, staring back at me. No movement. No wind. Just the oppressive quiet. But when I looked down, I saw something that made my stomach drop. Footprints. Bare feet, deep in the mud. And they weren't human. The toes were too long, the shape too distorted, like they were never meant to walk like that. We didn't sleep that night. We stayed awake, jumping at every sound, every creak of the wood, every rustle in the trees. But nothing came. The silence stretched on, suffocating. By morning, we were both exhausted, barely able to keep our eyes open. But we couldn't stay in the cabin anymore. We had to leave. We decided to check the surrounding area, looking for any signs of what had been going on. That's when we found them again. Footprints, all around the cabin. This time they were fresh. But they didn't make sense. The toes were stretched unnaturally long, and the prints were spaced too wide. We tried to convince ourselves it was just an animal, maybe a bear. But we knew it wasn't. We both felt it. The dread, the wrongness of it. We locked up the cabin and decided to leave as quickly as we could. But as we stepped out, ready to walk down the trail back to the road, we heard it again. The whisper. "Both of you don't belong here." I froze. My friend looked at me, his face pale with fear. I didn't want to stay another second. We grabbed our things and ran. We didn't care how far, just away from that cabin, away from the forest. The woods seemed to watch us as we ran. But when we finally reached the road, we didn't look back. A few weeks later, curiosity got the best of me. I wanted to know more, so I searched for that cabin again. But when I checked the booking site, there was no trace of it. No record of the cabin, the location, Nothing. I even contacted the rental agency. They told me that area had been closed off for years due to unexplained incidents. They wouldn't go into details, but they said there were reports of strange noises, whispers in the night, and people disappearing. The last thing they told me was that no one had ever returned to that cabin, and that the forest was cursed. I couldn't shake the feeling that something or someone had been watching us that entire time. And I couldn't help but wonder, was it calling us? Or was it something else? Something ancient that we had disturbed? I guess I'll never know. But the last thing I heard, the last thing I ever saw when I was close to that place, was a whisper. Don't come back. And I never will.